So today I want to talk about, well, I suppose it's inevitable with like the bombardment that we get about the American elections and stuff. And also it's been like a kind of, well, not that recent, but there was elections in the UK like in July or whatever. And so there's a lot of talk of like about elections and what's at stake and what did we vote for and things like that. And obviously, me being an anarchist, voluntarist, and not voting, it sort of seems like it's kind of obvious to me when people come up with complaints about what they thought they voted for and what they ended up getting. The sort of the disconnect between those two things. And I can't help but think, well, what did you expect? So I saw, I think it was on, I can't remember, it was like the news or something, like some news channel on YouTube, and people were complaining about, so in the UK, the pensioners get a winter fuel allowance, to obviously make up for the fact that it's quite cold in the UK, and in the winter you need to put your heat on a lot more, and so the old people who, pensioners who are living on the brink of poverty anyway, they, if they don't put the heat on, they die. And there are actually people who will not have the heat on warm enough and stuff because they can't pay for it. And so what's happened is a socialist government has been voted in, and like the first thing that they said is, oh, everything's terrible and we've got no money and it's all the previous administration's fault. So what we're going to do is cut the winter fuel allowance for the pensioners. Now, you might expect some, the way it's sold to you, some nasty right-wing government to do something like that. But, I think your average socialist voter wouldn't have expected that from a Labour government, socialist Labour government. But they got it anyway. And they're like saying, but we didn't vote for this, this wasn't in the manifesto, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, what do you expect? I mean, it's not like this is the first time in the history of politics that governments just do what they want. So it's not like beyond the realms of all imagination that, how could a government possibly do stuff like this? I mean, it's obvious that they had it planned. It was something that they were going to do. They knew they were going to do it. But see, that's the thing with, how do you vote against something that you don't know is going to happen? See, like, I've said this before, but the way voting works, and the way you're delegating your right to complaint, well, I don't know if delegating is the right word, but you've lost your right to complaint because you're implicitly supporting the system. It's like that whole, if you don't vote, you've got no right to complain. It's like, are you stupid? I mean, really, are you stupid? Because how does it work that you're somehow represented in a vote or whatever, when you don't really know what you're voting for. I mean, in this situation, when something's just completely pulled out the hat from nowhere, you literally, the people who voted, literally didn't know what they were voting for, because it just wasn't on the cards. So even the very, the concept of of you thinking that you're voting for something, I mean, what do you think you're voting for? I mean, really? It's not like they tell you. It's not like the rules of the game are clearly established, and if anyone veers off, then someone will call foul and something gets fixed. It doesn't work like that. I think there's something in Japan actually where if a political party does something that was clearly against the manifesto, then they have to call elections. I think that might be a thing in Japan, but it's certainly not a thing anywhere in Europe, and or in America or anything. So the whole concept of if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain. It's just nonsense. It's like, you don't have a right to complain anyway. What are you talking about? The whole you voting thing is just window dressing to we will literally do what we want anyway. And it kind of surprises me where people seem to think that this is it's what are we going to do? Something like this can always happen, but that's a feature. It's not a bug. This is meant to work like this. That's the whole. As soon as you're delegating your right to, you're basically delegating your right to how you want to live, because even in the best, most charitable concept of voting for your leaders, this will always happen because you're not being told what you're voting for. You're just completely delegating everything. You don't know. You've got no idea what they're going to propose. You've got some idea at a really high level, but you don't know the details. How big would manifestos actually be if they actually spelt out what they were going to do? They have to be tomes, and they're not. They're just pamphlets. So, even giving, trying to give me the best justification for, we're delegating our rights so that, someone who actually knows how to run the country can do it, or, someone who knows best. Apart from the fact that, I don't know how old you need to be to realise this. It's something that Joe Rogan says about being an adult, is that you suddenly realise that there are no adults. And I kind of know what he means. It's nobody really knows what's best. When you think that people are, they say stuff with such confidence and they obviously know what's best. It's well, they don't know, no. It's just their opinion. I think that this is best. And the problem with that is if someone gives an informed opinion and they're just wrong, well, normally that's okay. But if it's government policy, then it's a big problem. So, for instance, that's exactly what happened during COVID, and now with all some of the UK has been a bunch of inquiries and stuff, and it gets talked about. But this what was his name? I want to say Neil Ferguson, but I don't think that's it. Anyway, some academic who came up with the models for the mortality models and all this, how many people would die and stuff like that in COVID. I just got it completely wrong, because these are historic. Now years after the fact, you know, the numbers are in, we know what happened, you know, we at least know, you know, what the excess deaths were and, you know, all stuff like this, so we can actually assess somewhat what, or at least what happened. And it was just so wildly off, like crazy, you know, and you can't even say, well, you know, if we hadn't taken any measures, imagine what would have happened. It's like, well, he predicted part of his numbers were for Sweden. He said, what, Sweden aren't going to look down? Well, what's going to happen then? And it didn't happen. It was just, you know, he was just wrong. So, I'm not going to get into that now, but, you know, let's just say he was just wrong. You know, he did his best and he just got it wrong. So it's like, you know, these people, these models, and just like everything that government does anyway, it's just based on someone's opinion. And the thing is, why, you know, the whole point of, like, in theory, being an adult is that you make decisions for yourself. But that sort of goes against you. Voting is making the decision to not have to make the decision. You know, so there are certain things that perhaps just shouldn't be organised in this way. And so, you know, if people are getting taxed, it's kind of like people get taxed, but they have absolutely no way of saying what that money should get taxed on, what it should get spent on. You know, it's like, it's literally that. You know, it's just, there's zero input into that. Because at any given moment, some politician can just say, well, we're going to give it to this. It's like, you know, I get that running a government is going to be some kind of, you know, things are happening and you have to do things on the fly and stuff, but that just completely makes a mockery of, you know, why you vote for things anyway then. Because if you're acknowledging that, you know, this, you know, the organisation that we call government is just going to make stuff up on the fly anyway, then why are you even voting? What's the point? What do you think you're voting for? You know, it's the whole fact that you've taken part in the voting process means that you've legitimised absolutely any decision that you come up with. It doesn't matter what you come up with, you've legitimised it, you've rubber stamped it before, because that's what your vote is. Obviously it is, because if you don't vote and you can't complain, it means that you're going along with it. It's literally your fault for voting, and that's the way we see it as well. So I don't understand what people think they're voting for. Like, they treat voting as if it's some kind of buffet, and it's like, well, I like that bit, so that's what my vote is going for. And it's like, no, it isn't. You know, that how can you even think that? That's just like the most simplistic nonsense that I've ever heard. It's like, well, I'm going to vote for this, but I don't have kids, so I don't care about that bit of policy. And it's like, well, you know, how does that actually work? So it's not, you're not even voting against people who you think are ideologically different from you. You're voting, like, there's people who in some way might be ideologically aligned, but then they've got, like, separate parts that they don't care about. And, you know, can you imagine, you know, it's just so absurd. And also, it surprises me that I don't I mean, if you'd have spoken to me about this 20 years ago, I didn't think what I think now. But that's not because I've been radicalised by anything, it's because literally I hadn't thought about it. And that's another thing, that's like the biggest trick about this whole, voting thing, and whether you should vote, whether you shouldn't vote, and it's just so, you just cannot. You're the most radical. You're treated as the most radical political extreme view when you say that you don't vote. People are more comfortable with someone saying that they vote Nazi than they are saying that they don't vote. And I really mean it. I bet Nazis get less hassle than someone like me, who like when you get into political, when people bring up politics, and it gets down to like, well, I don't vote. And it's just, it's almost, it's just ridiculous. And the thing is, it's because you're not actually deciding anything anyway. You're passively going along with authoritarianism. I mean, do you seriously think that 99% of politicians, I'd say, if not more, if you let them flip the totalitarianism button to just get rid of their political opponents, I'm not saying murder them, but have them like politically incapacitated somehow. You honestly tell me that you wouldn't do that? And also, what's more, if voters would do it as well, voters would absolutely have opposition parties that they don't agree with made illegal. And I don't care who says that they wouldn't do it, they absolutely would. Because you can see it, like in just political discourse. Not, maybe, I know like, everyone says that the politicians are all mates and they all get on. And I think that's probably true. But the voters certainly don't. And like, over my lifetime, I've seen how like, political discourse has become so crazy polarised. I mean, it's been crazily polarised. Where you get to the point where I've seen people in my family have stand-up arguments and like walk out the room at some like family gathering over politics. And it's just, it's just crazy. But it's like, you know if that's their reaction, that they would totally ban the opposition party if they could, or like the party that they didn't vote for or whatever. They totally would. So I mean, doesn't even that go against what they think they're voting for anyway? But it's like everyone seems to like want it. Well, democracy means we all get a voice. And it's like, yeah, but if you could, it wouldn't be like that, would it? You'd totally not have it like that. If you could get away with it. I think that's part of it. Why? Yeah. I think most voters secretly admire totalitarian governments. And they're like, if the people that I liked, if they would just go full totalitarian, that'd be brilliant. And I'd never have to vote again. And it's like, you can't just, the fact that you're just delegating all your power straight out the box, it means that, it's a path. It's like everything's a path to something else. You know, like there's no such thing as like the ultimate diet to, you know, lose all the weight that you don't want to have and stuff like that. You know, you go. Let's face it, you're gonna have to be on it for the rest of your life. You know, the only way to get, you know, to be healthy is to like stay doing healthy things. You don't just like take the health pill and then I'm fixed. And that's kind of what everyone wants. That's why people go to doctors for ailments before they even think, you know, am I drinking too much? You know, am I eating right? Give me the pill, doc. That's all I want. And that's what it's like with, it's quick fix for everything. That's exactly what it's like with voting as well. People just want to vote against what they don't like, or at least what they're told they don't like. Because, I mean, certainly in Spain, depending on which TV channel you watch, you get like a very different spin on the news. And so people select for that, people watch the news that they want to watch. And so they only hear about things that they want to hear about. And so, you know, people complain about what happens to people watching, you know, YouTube on the internet, or, you know, political videos, and it's like, oh, you know, they get self-radicalized and stuff. It's like, wait, that's, you know, you tell me that there's never been newspapers that people like because they tell the news and the, you know, with their own political spin that they're particularly partial to. You know, that's just the way people will select for that. So it's kind of, even that means, that in the best case scenario of like democracy and everything, you don't have educated people, you know, people who are actually thinking about the issues and stuff. You can't, because you're only getting the information. You know, it's pre-polarized before you consume it, so you can't tell. There's no way of knowing what the truth is. And that's the thing now. So I mean, looking at the way you know, what's going on in America, I mean, I'm so glad that I don't live in America. You know, the two candidates that are on, you know, up now, you know, Trump and Kamala Harris. I mean, God, it's, you know, is that where we've got to? It just seems like crazy. I mean, apart from anything, we all know. You know, it's not like anyone's hiding it anymore. That the incumbent president, isn't running the show because, you know, he's just, you know, he's not well. You know, he's just not there. So no one can say that America is actually being run by Joe Biden right now. So I suppose it does call into question, you know, who does have the power? And if it's like that in America, I'm sure it's like that everywhere else. You know, so where does it all come from anyway? And it's, you see, the way I see it, being an anarchist is sort of the ultimate, like, protection against having to be the ultimate conspiracy theorist, because lots of strange things happen in the world all the time, and, you know, there are lots of coincidences happen, and, you know, things just perfectly align so that such and such an outcome can happen, or, you know, whatever. You know, this happens all the time, and it happens in all countries. But the only reason that it actually has any importance is because people have willingly given away all the power. So like, people don't even, you know, if you're if you're voting for a leader to just basically, you know, give you the recipe for the whole of your life, you know, like, give me some rules and, you know, let me just bounce around within the rules, and that's all I want to do. I just want to, I don't want to think, I just want to go through life and just have everything work. I mean, I think a good portion of people just want that. And I don't know why I don't. I mean, it'd be more comfortable, but I just can't stand the idea of, you know, we're just not. It's like, if you're not in control of your own life, you know, if you're not even offered the possibility, then it's like, what's the point? You know, I don't. It just opens the door for like all the other crap to happen. You know, none of this could happen if people were just like, you know, my life is my responsibility, and this is everything that can happen can only build on those foundations. So once you're starting on solid, sound foundations, then you can actually go somewhere. But when we're at the point where people don't even seem to think that they have the right to, you know, they don't even fundamentally have the right to the money that they actually make without it passing through the hands of the government before you even start. You know, it's like, it doesn't make sense. It's like people can't. How can we actually have an adult functioning society if people don't even take responsibility for themselves? And I'm not taught. See, when I say things like this, other people hear something else. So when I say that people can't take responsibility for themselves, all they hear is, I don't want to pay tax because I don't care about the poor. That's all like people hear. And that's not what I'm saying. But the point is, the means don't justify the ends. And that's an important thing. And that's like something that should be taught to kids in school. You know, you can't just do bad things to make good things happen. Because, for a start, who are you to say if they're good things anyway? But you've got no right to make people live the way you want them to. And that's why I don't vote. That's exactly the fair, you know, why don't you vote? And I say, because I don't have the right to make you live the way I want you to. You know, and it's like, now that's not saying that I don't have the right to defend myself if you try to impose something on me. You know, that's different. So like, if you want to live in a way that harms me, then I have the right to protect myself. But I don't have the right to force you to, you know, I don't know, whatever you want. You know, if you want to, you know, if you think that you can, that you should be allowed to like steal from people, then I can stop you doing that to me. You know, that's what, or I can pay someone to help me stop you doing that to me. That's kind of the way, because it's my right to defend myself. But I shouldn't have, you know, I don't have the right to come into your home. If you say, well, I'm going to rob from you, it's like, right, okay. So I can't like preemptively go to your house and like, you know, tie you down to your sofa or something, because you haven't done it yet. Because then, you know, maybe you're just lying when you're saying that you're going to do that, or maybe you're just thinking about it. Because otherwise, we're getting into this whole thought crime realm that I spoke about, you know, a few videos ago, where like people in the UK are getting into trouble with the law for silently praying in front of abortion clinics. And it's like, you know, do you have the right to abort your fetus Well, you know what, I don't know whether you do or not, but I tell you what I do know, I don't have the right to tell you you can't. So, you know, let's just base it from that. You know, that's between your conscience and, you know, whether you believe in a higher power or, you know, just you and your conscience, whatever. You know, if that's the way you want to live. And, you know, that's, you know, people do things for bad reasons, you know. You know, there's lots of us alive now that, like, if abortion would have been such a massive thing, maybe we wouldn't be here right now. You know, we don't know. You know, the way we're sort of, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be, you know, there's lots of polarising issues that seem to just be, like, put in front of us all the time, so that we don't actually talk about things that we can actually change. And, you know, that's why, I mean, the whole point of, like, me talking while I'm cooking a healthy lunch, it might seem like some kind of, like, bizarre thing, but what I'm about, what I'm trying to convey to people is that because your life is your responsibility, like, if you get into the habit, well, I'm always talking about good habits, but if you get into the habit of taking responsibility for things and, like, acknowledging that the state of your life is, you know, is down to you, then it goes across the board. So, like, when you're getting used to, you know, eating healthily, which makes you feel good, and so when you're feeling good, or at least feeling better, then you're not sort of, it changes your whole psychology. Feeling good just makes your life better, and it also means that you're going to be less of an asshole to everyone else, and it also means that you're going to, like, you know, I've still got my demons, I still have my personality hang-ups and stuff like that, but I'm much less likely now to take them out on someone else, like on my wife or on my kids or on society, or, you know, just because I've taken at least this, you know, that small step where I feel like I've turned my life around, you know, and now I'm not like some fat drunk who's, like, always moaning about rich people or, you know, whatever. You know, if everyone actually cared about themselves a bit more and actually took steps to improve their own life, like just within the four walls of the house that they live in, then everything will get much better. And so, yeah, you know, I'm an anarchist, and I think even, like, Locke and Rose always says, if he had the abolish the button government, would he just push it? And he says, probably not. Because it would just be an absolute mess, and it's true. But the only reason it's going to be a mess if the government just disappeared is because people haven't got to the point of realising that life is their responsibility. And that doesn't mean that it's your fault if unfortunate things happen to you. But, like, if everybody felt better about themselves, people would just be more altruistic. I mean, somehow people think that paying taxes and altruism are the same thing, and they're not. Just because you're getting stolen from to pay for stuff, and some of that might help out people who are less fortunate. I mean, don't kid yourself. You know, what percentage of all your income tax that gets taken off you do you think goes and helps people who are poor? You know, it's not 10%. It's less than that. Most of it's going on infrastructure and, you know, the military and all crap like that. You know, don't for a minute think that you're paying for the roads or, like, helping out people, or you're paying unemployment benefit. You're not. You know, that's just like, you know, that's part of this crazy buffet that you think you're attending when you're voting. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'll have a bit of helping the unemployment, and I'll make the roads better, and oh, that's all I'll have, that's all I'm voting for. It's like, you're nuts. You're just literally nuts if you think that that's the way it works. But that's the way people do think it works. And the thing is, people don't really, they don't even, I mean, the reason that the whole like do you vote thing is such an uncomfortable conversation with most people is because they don't even the whole why do you vote? Because I was told to. That's the top and bottom of it. I was told to and so I did. Is paying your taxes a good thing? Yes. Why? Because I was told it was. And that people never say that. They won't say, well, because I was told it was. They'll like invent some excuse post hoc of, you know, why, and like some people say because it's like your duty to the poor, and some people say, well, because it's your patriotic duty, you know, and it's just like, it doesn't matter. All of these things, you only do all this stuff because you're indoctrinated to it and you were told to, and that's it, and because you're forced to as well. Because if you don't, you end up in a cage, and that's the top and bottom of it. And people with guns will come and make you do what the state has told you to, and that's just the top and bottom of it. You know, and so whether you, you know, if some guy, you know, if some husband comes home drunk and says to his wife, I'm going to rape you tonight, and she goes, well, I don't mind, it doesn't change the fact that he's raping her. You know, that's what's happening. Just because they're married and like, you know, you can't, I don't know if this is still a thing. Yeah, I know it used to be. There was no, you couldn't rape your wife if you were married to her. It wasn't like possible. It wasn't technically possible. And that's just like the way the law works. So that, you know, that's why the government is taxing you and not stealing from you. Because it's just like it's just a euphemism. It's a legal euphemism that gets, you know, some magic that just happens, and that's how it is. But like, you're alright with that because you were told to be, and you've been told to be. And if you don't, and if you're not, then you're mean, or you're like, you're a fascist, or, you know, that's just where then all the name calling comes in. You know, I think I'll have to do a video about why people use the word fascist all the time, and it's people use it much more in a place like Spain that like had a right-wing dictatorship that was called fascist. You know, I'm not saying, this is another thing, as soon as you start to like say, well, maybe this wasn't fascist, or that's not fascist, or that, and it's like, oh, why, so you think it's good? It's like, well, no. But like, Hitler wasn't fascist, he was a Nazi, you know, and that was a bad thing. Mussolini was a fascist, and that was a bad thing as well, but for different reasons. And like, they had certain things that looked the same, and other things that were like fundamentally not the same, but they just get called, it's all fascist, it's all right wing. And the thing is, a lot of it's not even right wing, because you couldn't get like a cigarette paper between like you know, Hitler and Stalin on a lot of things. And it's just, you know, one's meant to be like far left communist and one's far right, you know, Nazi, and it's like, these are just things that you get told to sort of muddy the waters so that you don't really know what's going on. And also that you don't realise that, you know, lots of things that are just like common beliefs actually started out, like say for instance in, you know, Karl Marx's Communist Manifesto, you know, income tax, that's where that comes from. There was no income tax, you know, 200 years ago. You know, that didn't exist, that wasn't a thing. But now everyone's like, well, you don't pay like 30% of everything that you do doesn't go to the government. And you're not happy with that? You're a fascist. Well, no. Anyway, very ranty today, but it's because I'm kind of, you know, I'm hearing the same things again and again about this, you know, why people are just constantly surprised, like when they go out and legitimise politicians, that they come back and, you know, do bad things. And it's like, oh, I didn't vote for that. It's like, you idiot, of course you did. What do you mean? Where was the list of policies that you were exclusively voting for? Because unless you've got that, you did vote for it, it's your fault. Anyway, thanks for watching. Sign up to get the free ebook, the 30-day Dad Bod Buster Challenge. Even if you're not a dad, it's got good stuff in it. And see you soon.